dismissed to go to your Sunday school classes. Up here by yourself today. All right. Last week we started with chapter 48 and 49, and we were hoping to get through last week. We didn't quite make it, but we wanted to try to give a little bit of recap on that this morning, just because last week's service didn't quite get recorded or uploaded, and we'll give a quick recap. You got that over yet, brother? Huh? Okay. The chapter 48 of Genesis basically was Joseph blessing Joseph's children, and we went through that and how that he tried to make sure that in spite of Joseph trying to push his oldest to get the right blessing, the main blessing that Israel basically swapped, and basically blessed the younger one more so than the older one, similar to what Jacob went to when he basically swapped out with Esau. So we basically went through that chapter. Then chapter 49, we got started and we went through the different children of Israel and how he started blessing each one, or at least giving a prophecy for each one was the primary thing that he was doing. And we touched with Reuben, basically said he was unstable as water, and he shouldn't excel. And of course, we found out a little bit later that he's pretty wishy-washy, and he's the first tribe disinherited in 2 Kings chapter 10. Then we went on down and went to the next one, and of course Simeon and Levi, they were the two that actually ended up killing the whole city of men when they basically took their sister and raped her and everything. So Israel wasn't too happy about that, so he pretty much cut them out a little bit. But of course Levi came back as a tribe to be able to be the priest to all the other tribes, but they still didn't get a land of themselves. They were all mixed with the other tribes. Then we get down to Judah, and we had a whole list of the different prophecies of Judah, and those are in your notes, and how that God went through all those, and the fact of Judah, that's where Christ came out of, the line of the tribe of Judah, and the things there in Revelation, and the fact that this scepter would not part from Judah until Shiloh come, which basically is all the way down to Christ when he sets up his reign here. And then we went through Zebulun, Issachar, and the tribe of Dan. The Dan we went through and showed how that he was the tribe that basically got one of the Levites that was there with Micah to basically worship idols. And there was the one that's actually not mentioned in the book of Revelation as being sealed with the 7 tribes because of what they joined themselves to in the idols and the idol worship that they did back in that time frame. So then we got down to pretty much, that brings us down to Gad, and verses 13 through 27, and we'll try to pick up there with the tribe of Gad in verse 19. is where we started from that. It says, Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. And so we see there in 1 Chronicles chapter 5, notice there in verses 18 through 20, it says, the sons of Reuben and the Gadites and half tribe of Manasseh, of valiant men, men able to bear buckler and sword, and to shoot with bow, and skillful in war, so they was pretty good at war, were 440,703 score that went out to war. And they made war with the Hagarites, and Jeter, and Nephis, and Nodab, and they were helped against them, and the Hagarites were delivered into their hand, and all that were with them, for they cried to God in the battle, and he was entreated of them because they put their trust in him. So he overcomes at the last, and basically is part of that situation there. Verse 20 says, out of Asher his bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties. So not a lot of information there that we can find on Asher as far as any other scriptures about that. So if you got any ideas on Asher, feel free to let me know. I've tried my best to find something on him. But then we get to Naphtali is a hind let loose, and he giveth goodly words. And of course, Naphtali is where Jesus began his earthly ministry. So the goodly words, notice in Matthew chapter 4, verses 12 through 17, says, now when Jesus had heard that John was cast into prison, he departed into Galilee, and leaving Nazareth, and came and dwelt in Capernaum, which is upon the sea coast, and the borders of Zebulun and Naphtali, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet, saying, the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, by the way of the sea beyond Jordan, Galilee of Gentiles. The people which sat in darkness saw great light, and to them which sat in the region and shadow of death, light is sprung up. From that time Jesus began to preach and to say, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. So here we have Israel prophesying all the way down to when Christ started his ministry. Okay? And so there's a whole lot of prophecies, like we said here in chapter 49. Some have been fulfilled, some have not yet. So then we get down to Joseph. Joseph is, there are several attributes he lifted upon him. Notice in verse 22 of Genesis chapter 49, it says, Joseph is a fruitful bow, even a fruitful bow by the well, whose branches run over the wall. The archers have sorely grieved him and shot at him and hated him. But his bow abode in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. From thence is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Even by God of thy father, who shall help thee, and by the Almighty, who shall bless thee with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lieth under, blessings of the breast and of the womb. The blessings of thy father have prevailed above the blessings of thy progenitors, who to the utmost bound of the everlasting hills, they shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brethren. Of course, Joseph, talking a lot about here about how he prevailed even though his brothers basically sold him, put him in that pit, sold him to the people that was going down to the Egyptians, got in there, and he did fine in that Potiphar's house, but then his wife basically accused him of doing something wrong with her, and so then you get the fact that he got put in prison, and then did the prophecy there, the dreams of the two men, gets pulled back up, and the one of them gets pulled up and gets beheaded, the other one gets put back in service, and forgets Joseph, don't mention him, until basically the Pharaoh has a dream, and then say, oh, I know somebody that can interpret dreams. And of course, Joseph did that, And of course, from that point forward, Joseph was basically put in head of all the things that was done in Egypt, right next to Pharaoh, and protected basically his brethren and everybody else. And he realized it was God putting him there for that reason, not just, and the brothers kept worrying themselves to death what he was going to do to them. But he forgave them and realized what he was put through. So from an archers and a bow, Judges 5:11, they that are delivered from the noise of archers in the places of drawing water, there shall they rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord, even the righteous acts toward the inhabitants of the villages in Israel. And then shall the people of the Lord go down to the gates. Verse 24, he's a shepherd in the stone. Christ was as a shepherd as his first coming, but he will be the stone that crushes the Antichrist into Revelation. If you read Daniel chapter 2, verse 34, where that stone is rolled out of the mountain and rolls down and crushes the image. So the stone would cut out without hands and smote the image upon the feet that were of iron and clay. And that's talking about all the way into the Revelation period. So into the tribulation period back in there. So he's still prophecies right and left out of Jacob here. Verses 25 and 26 indicate that Joseph is blessed above the others for how he conducted himself through all the trials and gave God the glory for where he was rather than exalting himself. He never really put himself up. He was basically exalting God for what he had done. And so we see that Israel here is getting down to the last one, getting down to Benjamin, and the last son that he had. And of course, when he had Benjamin, when he was born, Rachel passed away. And I'm sure that's always a sad mindset in Israel's thing about when Benjamin was born, his dearly beloved love, not necessarily all the ones that he'd had, but basically passed away at the same time. Verse Benjamin says, shall raven as a wolf in the morning, he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. If you take a look at Judges chapter 20, and we're not going to read all of that, but basically it gives a description of one tribe of Benjamin basically defeating the other tribes of Israel 2 days with a lot fewer men, until God gave them the victory on the third day. In other words, he was very few compared to all the. Matter of fact, let's just go over and read a little piece of that in Judges chapter 20, just to show you the differences between Benjamin and the other tribes, because we might read some of it. The Lord also spake unto Joshua, saying, speak to the children of Israel, saying, appoint out for your cities of refuge, whereof I spake unto you by the hand of Moses, that the slayer that killeth any persons unawares and unwittingly may flee thither, and they shall be. Wait a second, I'm in Joshua, not Judges. Excuse me. Sorry to say. Something wasn't reading right. They still start with J.
I was trying to figure out what verse you had started on.
Oh, well. We're human after all, right? Says, then all the children of Israel went out, and congregation was gathered together as one man from Dan even to Beersheba, to the land of Gilead, and to the Lord of Mizpah. And the chief of the people, even all the tribes of Israel, presented themselves in the assembly of the people of the God, 400,000 footmen that drew sword. Now, notice, now the children of Benjamin heard that the children of Israel were gone up to Mizpah. Then said the children of Israel, tell us, how was this wickedness? How many people did it say? 400,000, right? And the Levite, the husband of the woman that was slain, answered and said, I came into Gibeah that belongeth to Benjamin, I and my concubine to lodge. And the men of Gibeah rose against me and beset the house round about me by night, and thought to have slain me, and my concubine have they forced, and she is dead. And I took the concubine and cut her in pieces, and sent her throughout all the country of the inheritance of Israel, for they have committed lewdness and folly in Israel. Behold, you are all children of Israel. Give here your advice and counsel. And all the people rose up, one man, saying, we will not any of us go to his tent, neither will any of us turn into his house. But now this shall be the thing which we will do to Gibeah, and we will go up and allot against it. And we will take 10 men of 100 throughout all the tribes of Israel, and 100 and 1,000, and 1,000, and out of 10,000, and fetch victual for the people, that they may do, and they come to Gibeah of Benjamin, according to all the folly that they have wrought in Israel. So all the men of Israel were gathered against the city, knit as one. Now notice what it says. The tribes of Israel sent men through all the tribe of Benjamin, saying, what wickedness is this that is done among you? Now therefore deliver us the men, the children of Belial, which are in Gibeah, that we may put them to death and put their way evil from Israel. But the children of Benjamin would not hearken in the voice of their brethren, the children of Israel. So they said no. But the children of Benjamin gathered themselves together out of the cities and to Gibeah to go up to battle against the children of Israel. So this is one tribe against other tribes. And the children of Benjamin were numbered at that time out of the cities 26,000 men. Against how many? Yeah, and they held them off for 2 days. So you can see that Benjamin is a wolf. He's devouring the prey, and finally, once the Lord gave them that victory, instead of them trying to do it themselves, and they finally got the victory on the third day. But he's pretty strong in what they did. So that brings us down to Genesis chapter 49, verses 28. And it says, and all these are 12 tribes of Israel, and this is it that their father spake unto them, and blessed them, every one according to his blessing. He blessed them. And he charged them and said unto them, I am to be gathered unto my people, bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephraim the Hittite, in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, and the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field of Ephron and the Hittite for a possession of a burying place. And there they buried Abraham and Sarah and his wife. There they buried Isaac and Rebekah, his wife, and there I buried Leah. The purchase of the field and of the cave that is herein was from the children of Heth. When Jacob had made an end of commanding his sons, he gathered up his feet into the bed and yielded up the ghost, and was gathered unto his people. So we see here that Israel is now dying, and Jacob basically has set forth his prophecies with all of his sons, and he says, I don't want to be here. I want to be buried back where I'm supposed to be. And when you start looking at it, I mean, at this point in time, family cemeteries, that's where it came from. Abraham and his family and all the family therein basically purchased, and Jacob wanted to be buried there. But notice what verse 33 says, and I like this. And when Jacob had made an end of commanding his sons, he gathered up his feet into the bed and yielded up the ghost. Now, what does that say about all the people that believe this body, soul, goes to the grave? Ghost is gone. Soul is still there. He gave it the ghost, the body just sat there. So that presents a hard evidence against those that believe the grave is the eternal hell or whatever for anybody, because it's just for the body. That's all it's for. But that's where that one's at. And then we get over to chapter 50. And like I said, it's fairly condensed in the way that it's set up. And we'll probably finish up here shortly. In chapter 50, it says, and Joseph fell upon his father's face and wept upon him and kissed him. So Joseph was bereaved for that. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father, and the physicians embalmed Israel. So, of course, Egypt was the ones that basically pioneered that embalming process. And they say it was pretty gruesome. Yeah, they took out all your organs and all that stuff and filled it with spices and all that junk. But notice, if you read down through here, it's fixing to tell you it's 40 days. It's 40 days worth. It says, in 40 days, there you go in verse 3, were fulfilled for him, for so are fulfilled the days of those which are embalmed, and the Egyptians mourned for him 70 days. So it took another 30 days after the embalming, to mourn for him. So 70 days after he died, and it's when this is fixing to start occurring. When the days of his mourning were past, 40 days for embalming, and 30 days for the other, Joseph spake to the house of Pharaoh, saying, if now I have found grace in your eyes, speak, I pray you, in the ears of Pharaoh, saying, my father made me swear, lost my spot, saying, lo, I die in my grave, which I have digged for me in the land of Canaan, there shalt thou bury me. Now therefore let me go up, I pray thee, and bury my father, and I will come again. And Pharaoh said, go up and bury thy father according as he made thee swear. So Joseph asked Pharaoh, says, I need to leave, take my father up there, then we'll come back. And Pharaoh says, yep, you can go. But notice this next passage here. And Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Egypt, and all the house of Joseph and his brethren, and his father's house. Only their little ones and their flocks and their herds they left in the land of Goshen. You talk about a multitude. You talk about a funeral procession. Can you imagine trying to pass that on the road nowadays? But and there went up with him both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great company. They came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond Jordan, and there they mourned with a great and very sore lamentation. And he made a mourning for his father 7 days. So here they get up there, and they're fixing to wait another 7 days and mourn for him. But notice what happens, verse 11. And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, saw the mourning in the floor of Atad, they said, this is a grievous mourning to the Egyptians, wherefore the name of it was called Mizraim, which is beyond Jordan. In other words, everybody around them noticed how big of a congregation this folks was. So it was probably a fairly big sight to behold. It's probably a lot bigger than John F. Kennedy going through the Washington, D.C. when he got. It's probably bigger than that by a long shot, but it's hard to imagine how many people followed with him. And then in verse 12 it says, and his sons did unto him according as he commanded them. For his sons carried him into the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave of the field of Machpelah, which Abraham bought with the field for a possession of a burying place of Ephron the Hittite before Mamre. And Joseph returned into Egypt, he and his brethren, and all that went up with him to bury his father after he had buried his father. So here we see that Joseph basically did as is commanded, and he basically put his father back where he wanted to be buried. And all this entourage basically came back to Egypt, just like they said, because, to tell you the truth, why would you want to stay? The famine's still going. So definitely needs to be there. And then verse 15 says, and when Joseph's brethren saw that their father was dead, here they go again. Oh no, Joseph is going to do something to us again. saying, thy father did command before he died. No, wait. Joseph's brethren saw that their father was dead. They said, Joseph will peradventure hate us and will certainly requite us all the evil which we did unto him. We don't believe he really forgave us. So we know he's going to do something to us now that Papa's died. But they sent a messenger unto Joseph saying, thy father did command before he died. Remember what he said. So shall ye say unto Joseph, forgive. Where did you hear that at? Where did you hear any of those words when he was speaking? Forgive, I pray thee now, the trespass of thy brethren and their sin. For they did unto thee evil, and now we pray thee, forgive the trespass of the servants of God, of thy father. And Joseph wept when they spake unto him. Why would he weep? Because guys just don't believe me. Yeah, I mean, I've already forgiven you. You just don't believe me. And notice what he says. And his brethren also went and fell down before his face, and they said, behold, we be thy servants. And Joseph said unto them, fear not, for I am in the place of God. I'm where God put me. Not where you put me, but where God put me. That's the difference. But as for you, ye thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good, to bring to pass as it is this day, to save much people alive. Now therefore fear ye not. I will nourish you and your little men, and be comforted. And he comforted them and spake kindly unto them. And in verse 22, and Joseph dwelt in Egypt, he and his father's house, and Joseph lived 110 years. So Israel lived 147, Joseph lived 110. And you can see that the ages are starting to get a little bit lower. And Joseph saw Ephraim's children of the third generation. So basically, he saw his great-grandchildren while he was there. And also of Machir, the son of Manasseh, were brought up unto Joseph's knees. And Joseph said unto his brethren, I die, and God will surely visit you and bring you out of this land. You know, it's another 300-something years. He predicted it. Yeah. Because Israel had predicted it, God had told Israel that same thing, that you need to go down there, and I'm going to bring you back out as a great nation. So Joseph still believed that. To the land which he sware to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. And Joseph took an oath of the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and ye shall carry up my bones from hence. And Joseph died, being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. Their embalming process was good. Because basically it was still another couple of hundred years before they brought him out. But here we see Joseph didn't want to die, didn't want to be buried there in Egypt as well. And what you'll find is that when Moses gets the children of Israel to come out, they carry Joseph's bones with him. And so you'll find that when if you read over in Exodus a little bit further. So that pretty much ends our study in the book of Genesis. And I hope you've gotten something out of it over the course. And I'm going to bring up the fact that I've not quite got them all done yet, but we, for the most part, we have now an active, of course, all these things are up on YouTube, and on our YouTube channel that we have there. And we have also finally got our somewhat church website up and running, mountmoriahtabernacle.com. And we're putting these on there basically to where you can go in there and pick them up, and it'll link to the YouTube. And you'll also have the full set of notes from Genesis 1 all the way through 50 there that you can get and download. And they're indexed by chapter, so you can basically pull them up and watch whatever thing that you want at the same time. And we're doing the same thing with Brother Wayne's messages. You usually see the outline up here when we're going through the services. But when that outline's up there, he's on a whole bunch of other more detailed notes that he goes through and uses. those notes are also being posted underneath his messages up on the website. So that'll help you go back and get information and look at those things as well on that type of stuff. So I hope you'll feel free to go out there and let me know any kind of helps, improvements, whatever that you may have on it, because it's a work in progress. We're supposed to work with Miss Mary and stuff to try to get some pictures and things of that sort. Now that she's down, we will still try to get to them and everything. But anything that's got a church calendar on there, it's got the services so far back through the first of the year, and then it's got the other things, got who we are and what we believe and things of that sort on there. So feel free to go on there and make comments to me, give them to me or whatever, and I'll be glad to try to get them updated. So anybody got anything else before we dismiss this morning? Yeah, with Lazarus, right. Yep. Oh, it's. Means hope chest, yep. Amen. Amen. And God knows where, there's a lot of people that their body may not be in the grave because they may have burned or whatever, lost at sea or whatever. God knows where every little piece is at. And he's going to bring it up, raise it up, and meet him in the air during that rapture time of the church. We look forward to that. Hopefully it'll come before we have to go through the grave, is what my prayer is. So, anybody else? All right, Brother John, we need to dismiss this in word of prayer.